Good afternoon. It's Brian. Hello, Jacob? Hello? Hello? Hello?
Sorry, Brian. The phone was muted on the computer, but not on the actual phone itself.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Jacob.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, no worries. Okay, so it's 4:01, and I will call this meeting to order. I'm Jacob Pride, the chair of the Smithfield Township Board of Supervisors. This is our regular work session. Present are Supervisor Brian Barrett via Zoom, Supervisor Robert Lovenheim, Office Manager Julia Heilica, Solicitor Ron Karasak, and Engineer John Tressler. Do we have anyone from the, and Social Media Coordinator Carissa Gehring. Do we have anybody with us by Zoom? Hearing none, we will move on. Next is, we don't have any minutes to approve. Public comments on the agenda.
I do have one thing. We will need to discuss the art fund at the end of this.
Okay. Very well. In terms of unfinished business, announcing executive session, we had one Tuesday, May 25th from 9:04 p.m. to 9:16 p.m. regarding potential property purchase. At this point, I'll say our next item would normally be our public hearing on draft ordinance number 241, reducing membership of the zoning hearing board, but our stenographer will be joining us via Zoom. There was a traffic issue earlier, so we're going to take care of the rest of our regular business until Donna joins us. First up is considering special event permit refund. This was a request from Frank Riccobono they sent the other day. He is opting not to use the remainder of his time for his special event, which would be the farmers market. He gave it his best, but he felt, right now is not the right time for it, so he requested a refund for the balance of that, minus the $200 that he utilized in time so far. Does anybody have any questions?
I would like to say that we should, as a matter of policy, encourage any entrepreneur to try to do something like this, and if it doesn't work, I think we should act appropriately and give them a refund on the unused portion, and I'll make a motion that we do that with this.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Lovenheim, second by Mr. Barrett. All in favor? Aye.
Before all in favor, just one comment from Mr. Barrett. I just want to thank Frank Riccobono for taking these stances and moving forward with good, positive endeavors. And as Robert had said, I think it's our real responsibility to encourage this kind of activity.
Agreed.
That's it. Yep.
Awesome. I agree. Good sentiments. Okay. And with that said, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. The refund is agreed to, and Frank will be able to pick up his check. At this point, Donna is now on with us, so I suppose at this point I will open the public hearing on draft ordinance number 241 at 4:04 p.m. Is everything ready, Donna?
Yes, thank you.
Yep.
Well,
Thank
that's
you very
loud and
much.
clear.
Sorry.
Ron, do you have any housekeeping items?
The record should reflect that the ordinance change was advertised in the Pocono Record. Since it is an amendment to the zoning ordinance, there had to be one ad once a week for 2 weeks under the name of the township, and then one ad for one time under my name as township solicitor. Those ads were in fact published, and I believe that, just give me a moment.
Oh.
The ads under the name of the township were on, okay, Monday, May 24, and Monday, May 31. And the ad under my name was on Wednesday, May 26. So the ordinance has been duly advertised. The copy was provided to the to the Monroe County Law Library for review, and then the copy was also provided to the newspaper for review. So that being said, this ordinance is in a position for discussion and for vote. And I think that's all I have here. I'm looking at my file for housekeeping purposes.
Excellent. Well, does anybody have any comments? I'll start with...
Let me just back up one other reason, Mr. Chair. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No problem.
And this was reviewed by the Monroe County Planning Commission, and there is a letter dated February 4, 2021 with respect to that review, and the ordinance was also reviewed by the Smithfield Township Planning Commission at its meeting February 11, 2021. So again, those housekeeping items were all...
Excellent. Thank you, Ron.
Jacob, I have a comment, please. We had been looking at the situation, and we realized in this day and age, for some reason, it's tough to get people to volunteer their times. This consideration is partly being addressed because of a recommendation by the solicitor for the Smithfield Township Zoning Hearing Board. And I'd just like that to be a part of the record.
Absolutely. I would agree with that.
Right.
I forget when the date of his letter, but we'll obviously have that on file, which is good. Any members of the public or any of my colleagues here have any comments?
Just that I concur with Brian that it's been very difficult to fill the positions on the zoning hearing board. And this seems to be a very practical way to proceed. And the record should reflect that the email from Solicitor Jeremy was on Monday, May 3 at 9:05 a.m.
Excellent. With that said, does anybody have anything else? Okay.
I'll make a motion.
Go ahead.
I make a motion that we excuse me, that we approve ordinance number 241 reducing membership of zoning hearing board, and I believe it's from 5 to 3 members. Jacob, is that correct?
Correct. And Ron, do we have to close the public hearing before we?
If you want to, you can close the public hearing and then just vote when you're out of the hearing, so.
Okay.
Hold Mr. Barrett's
Okay.
motion on hold, if you will,
Yeah.
until you get out of the public hearing.
Yes, I'll second his motion and place it on hold for the moment. I'll move that we close the public hearing at 4:09. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Robert Levin. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Barrett's motion has been duly made and seconded. Are there any public comments or comments by the board before we proceed to a vote? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. The ordinance is adopted. Donna, thank you very much for joining us by Zoom. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm glad we have this option.
Yes, definitely.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Excellent. With that said, Julia, do you have the copy that we would sign, or?
Of the ordinance, I
Yeah.
believe Lois had it.
Oh.
It's not in front of you at this time. We'll have to circle around.
Yeah, we can, yeah. That
I
sounds,
have one here, if you don't want it all like better paper, like bond paper, if you want.
I think we typically just do ordinances on those, so we can do that then. Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
There you go.
Okay. Moving on, our next item is B, considering Fall Community Festival Special Event Permit. This, those came in fairly recently, and is requested for October 2nd, 2021 at 109 Clubhouse Court in East Stroudsburg. So the applicant is officially Mountain Manor Holdings, so I suppose it's some sort of community event, but that's really all the details that we have, other than that they have the necessary liability insurance to us with the ACORD forms.
Well, if they've paid their fee, I guess they can have their festival.
Does anybody have any questions?
I do. I just don't know what a fall community festival could entail. Are there going to be rides and fireworks or food service? I just don't know. It's not a big deal, or maybe it is a big deal. I just would. I think it's a good idea, and it's a good idea for that particular location. But I would like a little bit more information as to what's going to be involved.
Well, since it's on Mountain Manor, as long as they're not calling it Falls Community Festival. Okay.
Well, that's a good point. But again, look at now we have the old truck show. We know exactly what that is about. We have the fireworks permits. We have the wedding permits for fireworks, and they're very, very briefly explained. And I'm just saying, the Fall Community Festival, I for one would just. I think I would make a motion to approve it, certainly, with one stipulation, that it doesn't contradict or go against any of our allowed activities in our community.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Mr. Barrett, second by Mr. Levenheim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
May I just add, Mr. Chair?
Sure.
Following up on what Mr. Barrett said, there is enough room on this form if you want to change it moving forward. You have type of special event,
Oh, yeah.
and then underneath you can put brief description of event.
Yeah,
And give a couple lines, and then the rest of it's okay. I mean, I think when it was prepared, the type of special event was meant to sort of like tell us what you're doing.
Right.
Someone can be cheap and say, well,
Understood.
we're just telling you the type, we're not telling you what it is. So if you think you want to do that, the board is welcome to make a motion to revise this form moving forward
and putting a line that would say brief description of event, if you believe it's necessary.
I
Well,
think that can be part of the discussion on changing a couple of these forms to reflect more information, right?
Could be.
We can definitely do it if the board would like to do this one right now.
Yeah.
And,
All right.
and change it.
Yeah, I think so. Just look at Frankie's request. He was very explicit on the exact dates and times, what was going to happen, and the activities and the days. So just a very brief description. Yeah.
All right. Well, so moved. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Yes.
Second by Mr. Levenheim and Mr. Barrett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. That's done. The next is the Old Truck Show. This one is actually sponsored by Minnesink Hotel and is a fundraiser for Shawnee Fire Company and Maddie's Angels, so that's really amazing, and it's actually fairly soon. So does anybody have any questions on that?
I have a little bit of a background information on it, Jacob, but I didn't know the date. When is it going to take place?
Oh, June 20th.
Oh, June 20th. Okay, thank you.
Right. Yep.
Do we want to consider forgiving our fee?
Absolutely. Will you make a motion to that effect and approving it?
Yes, sir.
Second.
Okay, motion by Mr. Barrett, second by Mr. Levenheim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that's great because it's a really nice charitable event. Okay. Next is the road paving bid with River Road. Ed needs, authorization to begin, preparing the specifications with PennDOT so it can be advertised and bid it out. He's expressed to me that, despite our misgivings with the paving being so long, it may end up costing more to mobilize the same amount of people for a smaller distance than just doing the entire project. So he absolutely recommends pursuing the entirety of his proposal, which I think was one
now,
point.
Is this from Hollow Road North, or is this starting more southerly to that?
I think it starts before the bad turn.
I'm sorry, Jacob, where does it start?
I think it starts before that bad turn by Hollow Road, right by Commissioner Moyers.
Okay, so it'd start at Hollow Road and it would run up to the Park Service property?
Correct.
So
Okay.
It doesn't take in the part through Shawnee Village or anything like where the general store is, nothing like that.
I would think that it does, Robert. I think
it does.
Yeah, I think it's all right there.
Is it going the other way though? I mean, I'm sure. Where does it start? Where does it end? It starts at Hollow and goes to Buttermilk.
Yeah, like right by Worthington, where that horrible turn is.
Yeah, but I thought we were discussing before paving the other end that goes towards the park.
I do too, Robert. Yeah, that's what it is, I believe.
Yeah.
From Hollow to the Park Service property.
I currently don't have internet speed full of them.
Oh. Well, as I understood it, I thought it was all incorporating that.
I know, but I think even the reference from the Shawnee Fire Company, they had said that once you get by Hollow Road on River, it really deteriorates, and there's been some problems and complaints about it. I didn't assume. I'm pretty sure I saw it or was told that it was going to go from Hollow Road to the Park Service property. So either way, because to go from Hollow Road up, Jacob, up to Buttermilk, I don't know of any real problems with on that road. Robert, do you remember, Jacob?
I think it's from right. Maybe I'm stating things wrong. From what I understand, it's from right by the Playhouse to our service gate there. I know that there's other River Road paving that's maintenance paving, and then buttermilk, as I explained to President Timko from the fire company in the email that you all were copied on. So I believe those are two separate things.
So we are talking about going north.
So,
Yeah.
Towards Fort
I
Dupuy.
found that note, and the contract paving is River Road from Hollow Road to the Park Service gate. And then he also
That-
hopes to track the River Road to the Academy.
And Julia, that's contract paving, correct?
The first one that I mentioned is, the second one is not. The River Road to Academy would be a scratch coat done by our guys. The contract paving would consist of the River Road from Hollow Road to the Park Service gate.
There is Academy.
I think that's what, okay. I think that's what Eddie had in mind,
Right.
contract paving, which would be the entire length.
Right.
Right below Smithfield. It shut down a while ago, but it's like the Light of the World Church?
Yeah, the World Church.
Light of the World Church.
Oh, okay, all right.
That's what we used to
That's
be.
Academy.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
The Academy has since closed down.
Here's something else to consider, as long as we're doing contract paving. I don't want to throw this in as something that would stall things, but it seems like it's time to mention it. A few years ago, we were talking potentially about speed bumps on River Road through the area between the entrance to Shawnee Inn and really the general store. And John actually did a plan for one of them. My feeling is, if the residents and the business people around there want it, maybe this is the time to do it. I've just been in touch with Wyndham, who put two of them in, and these are 25-foot PennDOT approved speed bumps, but the cost for both of them together at Wyndham, and which was done by Northeast contractors, same people that are doing the tunneling under 209, was $6,000. And I was...
That's all?
Yeah, I've heard $8,000 for one, and this was $6,000 for both. You can go up to Wyndham, the road that goes through just back of the rec center there, and see them. But they seem really good to me, and at $3,000 a piece, it's really a bargain. But the way they could get that is they had a contractor there who was doing paving anyway. So maybe something to look into. But my feeling is, I'd like to hear that the people who live around there want it. I hear a lot of grousing, but I brought it up at an SPS meeting. If people really want it, at least let us know or write us some letters or something. I haven't gotten anything, but there's an SPS meeting I think tomorrow night. I can bring it up again, or Thursday night, whatever it is. And if we're interested, because it seems like the time to do it is when we've got contract paving out there, and that's what Wyndham did.
I agree, Robert. And I know that we actually did an informal survey of residents along that road. The biggest thing, the one thing they did not want was a red light, no matter what. They felt the stopping and starting again and the exhaust and the noise were just something they didn't want any part of. But I don't know that anybody really expressed any concerns about speed bumps. I know you did some research on them.
The other thing we should think about is this. Once 209 becomes a construction zone on the road, which is going to, I think, be, 2 years that they're going to be working up there, it's going to dump a lot more traffic onto River Road, and we're going to have the same problems with speed there that we had once before, I think, when something was closed. Do you remember, Brian? There was a... Yeah,
it was one of the bridges up on Hollow Road that was closed, and it became a diversion, right? It was...
Right.
Yeah, and it put a lot more traffic, and the traffic is... they really move. They really move, and coming through... I don't know if it's...
I've been past there on places where I can't believe anyone would take the chance. But anyway,
I had a head-on collision.
Going to get that again. It might be a good time to do it.
I agree.
Julie has something to say.
At this point, I know that Ed has already expressed that we are up against the deadline to get the road paving contract approved as it is. If we're interested in doing this type of constituent outreach and making sure that our residents want these speed bumps before we put them in, perhaps the better answer would be to approve the contract as it is and then maybe consider speed bumps next year. My main concern here is I don't want to slow down Ed any further, and get us further into this.
Okay, well, what's saying we entertain a motion to approve, or authorize Ed making the road paving bid with the provision that, consideration also be given to, speed bumps or traffic calming devices, in the near future on, that corridor.
Well, remember, there's a board meeting of SPS, I think it's Thursday.
Right, but if we authorize this with the provision that there's research that allows that to occur.
All right, well, I'm just saying, in the near future, we might be able to get, some accord on thinking this is a good idea.
Yeah, well,
I don't know.
yeah.
So.
Okay.
But Robert, that, for that price, and as you said, Northeastern, they're going to be here for a while. Maybe, we should reach out to them, because I think between you and John, actually, Lee and myself, we had walked good portions of that, and especially coming down off Buttermilk, coming down that hill into the village, people really moving. Yep.
Excellent.
I didn't.
Yeah. Go ahead, Brian. Sorry.
No, I was just saying. I just don't remember any vocal opposition to it. And I know that Robert had talked, and a lot of people talked to Robert about it, and myself, and we seemed it was a good idea, but the price, it just seemed, Robert mentioned $8,000 for just one, and so at this price, maybe, and if it's PennDOT approved, I think we should move and move quickly. Yep.
Okay. Well, with that said, do I hear a second on my motion to include the paving and that research?
Why don't we ask Ed to talk to Northeast to see what we can, I want to know whoever's contractor is, so we make a deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if we do put
Yeah.
that, whoever gets the low bid would be.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Levenheim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I told Josh at Wyndham, when I heard this price, I said, hey, you ought to work for us.
Robert, I missed your vote.
Yes.
Okay. Next is, item E, resolution number 479, which is, just a brief correction. I believe it was resolution 477, replaces resolution number 477, which was applying for the Greenways, Trails, and Recreation Program through DCNR. It's just a technical correction in that they wanted to the total amount of the grant and project. So we had a number that was something around 212, and the number is actually 250.
That's correct. What they wanted in that resolution was the entire project budget, not the grant money that we were going for. The original resolution had only the grant money, which was 212. The actual project that we're applying for had a 37.5 match, which brought the entire project budget up to $250,000.
This is a problem I've had before. It's like, okay, what is the figure? If we're putting in money, it's the lower figure, not the higher figure. No, we want the higher figure. Doesn't make much sense.
Okay. With that said, does anybody have any questions?
Do we need to make a motion, Jacob, on this?
Yes, I'll entertain one.
Okay, I'll make the motion and we approve it.
Motion by Mr. Barrett. Do I hear a second by Mr. Levenheim? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next is F, which is considering the $125,000 loan payoff. This is something that was born once we realized liquid fuels was actually in good shape, and the fact that DCNR preferred us to own the land simply. Now, at this point, we have the rights to it anyway, but at this point, the prepayment penalty is far less than the interest. And Julie, I think
there is a prepayment penalty.
There is a 2% of the balance owed prepayment penalty if they decide to enforce it. So there's
If they decide, yep.
Yeah, so there's a possibility they might waive that fee, there's a possibility they might not. At this point, if the board does opt to pay off the loan right now and they do not waive the fee, we will save $4,407.99. If we opt to pay this loan off now and the fee is waived, we will save $6,847.36. So that's where the numbers are right now. It is up to you if you would like to keep this loan going so we have additional liquid assets, or if we should pay it off and save the interest money.
Just as far as the penalty, it was expressed to me when I negotiated, it would collect the penalty.
I hope they can follow through on that kind sentiment.
That'd be nice.
If we have future business to do.
Well, I think I would like to make a motion that we pay it off. As the reason for its existence really was we didn't know what the hell to expect coming into 2021. We've been fortunate, financially at least, in that we're okay and we're fairly strong. So I don't see any reason to have it now and pay it off and save that money at least $4,000.
I agree with Brian. I'll second the motion. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Fantastic. Next is Healing the Planet grant. We have only just received late last night, and by we, I didn't actually get it myself, but Julie received late last night the draft from Broadhead Watershed, so I'd move that we table the application till June 22nd, so we have time to read it amongst ourselves.
Yeah, I received the application. I've not put the township portion of this in, but just to give you guys a heads up, we're looking at about a $15,000 application with a $2,500 match for the township. I will have firmer numbers for you in the next few days.
And Julia, you'll be sharing all that information with us then?
Absolutely.
So that, in fact, as Jacob said, we can peruse it and come to our decisions.
Yeah, my goal is to have a complete draft application prepared and ready for your review for the 22nd meeting. And at that point, you can say, yes, let's go, or it needs to be changed, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, at least we'll still have time left then.
Yes, this application is due on June 30th, so you'll have to make some sort of conditional motion on the 22nd if you want anything changed, but we're ready to move forward.
So all we'll need is to share that information before the 22nd. Great.
Yeah, and I need to still write the grant, the application portion for the township. BWA has sent me their draft portion. I just need to add the townships now.
Okay. All right.
Perfect. Do I hear a second on the motion to table that item until June 22nd?
Second.
Okay. Motion by myself, second by Mr. Levenheim. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next is item H, considering scheduling the joint session with the Planning Commission regarding the Economic Development Zone Amendment. So there's a few caveats here. Robert is out of the area from the 23rd to the end of July, and I am out of here from the last week of July when we would normally have our meeting. So I would ask, since we won't have anybody in person to do the computer aspect of it, that we consider tabling this item until June 22nd, so we can contemplate what we'll do for our second regular meeting in July.
That makes sense. Ow. Robert, sounds like you're going to Barcelona?
Yeah, we're going to try.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Okay. With that said, do I hear a motion on this?
I'll make a motion. Postpone this to the June 22nd.
Second, yeah. Okay. All second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next is item I, discussing professional escrow agreements. I know that Julia can give us the lowdown on this. I know that you emailed it, but we good to talk about it.
Yes, so, I emailed you 2 separate professional services agreements, one of which we found here at the township, and the other of which was part of the septic escrow package that Scott provided to us. Since then, both of them have been altered slightly to make sure that they can cover anything, whether it's septic or saldo requirements. And at this point, we are just wondering which one the board would like to use. One thing that we will need a comment on is that there is, on the suggestion of our auditor, a $50 administrative fee. It was originally designed to be a $50 administrative fee per year for the escrow. Our finance people think it might be a little bit complicated to handle that, so their suggestion is to assess that $50 fee at the opening of the escrow account once, or remove that provision entirely. At this point, we need a decision on that, and then peruse the 2 documents and determine which one you prefer. Whichever one you go with, I believe that it would make our administrative easier if the first page that has all of the contact information, be part of whichever document you choose to go for.
You should know, Mr. Chair, that I've reviewed these agreements. In fact, the professional services agreement, the one that looks like this, was the one I prepared a few years ago. That, you know, obviously, if I prepared it, I would think I'm comfortable with it. I may have made a change or 2 since then, but
Certainly.
the sewer one, which is this one that has the township seal, et cetera, on the top, that's the one in your hands.
Yeah.
Again, is an escrow agreement for sewage, but you can see on the bottom of page 2 where I have added a little notation that says that the applicant will be making an application for a subdivision, land development, conditional use, all lot sewage proposal, et cetera, so that I would think that that agreement would work just as well. But I think we should just have one rather than 2.
Well,
I think for administrative purposes,
certainly.
it makes it easier, and we don't have to struggle as much. And most of these same agreements and things that are, or the terms that are in this professional services agreement are in what I'll call the sewer one, but either way, they're both okay, and if in fact there needs to be some separation of the 2, and I'll ask John that question while he's sitting next to me, from the sewer fees versus the land development fees, well, then I guess we need to keep it separate. If not, I would think one agreement would work for everything.
Yeah, I mean, it's a professional services agreement, you can apply it to any project, I would think.
Sure. That sounds fine to me. I'm struggling in my packet to find the second one, but.
It should be stapled right to the first one.
Okay.
Is it not?
Here, which one are you missing? You can have mine.
I am missing I might not be missing it, but I know that I have 8 pages of,
Okay, well, yeah, it would be this document then.
Well, it seems to be a little bit simpler.
Yes.
I did have it, but I do not.
And I think
No, I found it, I'm sorry.
this would work just as well, too. This is a little simpler, but I agree with Julia that whatever one you want to use, you should have the little cover sheet that gives the contact info and stuff on it.
So, personally, I wouldn't know of any significant, differences. I think that the cover sheet makes sense. I also think the $50 fee at the beginning makes the most sense. I also wonder if maybe we should assess a second one at the closure of it because of the administrative hassle that that'll have, because if we're not doing one intermittently, it might make sense to do one at the end, just as we do it at the beginning. But I don't know, that's just my feeling. I don't know what my colleagues feel.
Well, Jacob, it kind of does make sense. I don't know of any unforeseen consequences of doing anything like that, but I think it's fine. But I would ask the input of our solicitor and their engineer.
I know some townships assess an administrative fee as a percentage of the escrow amount.
As a percentage of it.
Yeah.
It might even be better.
Obviously, the bigger the escrow, the more work is involved.
That's a good point. It tracks.
Yeah.
I think that makes a lot of sense, actually, particularly as we're getting toward, more and more people wanting to do more and more things.
Again, when you use that number, you have to make sure that it matches with what the actual cost of the township is.
Right.
In administrating the account. It can't be a moneymaker.
Right. Yeah, it has to be revenue neutral.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I would think.
And Ron, are there certain exclusions even on what we could apply? I'm thinking of right to know requests and not that kind of stuff.
Well, I don't know about that, but let's assume that when you have to go to the escrow, you have, 15 minutes time by the administrator, another 10 or 15 minutes by the office manager, another 5 or 10 minutes cutting checks or writing checks. So let's say that the total time is about maybe a half hour every time you need to go to the escrow. And you times that by the amount that the township expends, and then you figure, depending upon the project, you're going to go to there 5 times, 10 times, use that as your multiplier and come out with your product. So that works. So it may need a little work to get to that number.
Mm-hmm.
The percentage, I agree with Brian, the percentage would be great because we could, I don't want to say make a little money, but it would be there, but.
Well, it would make sure that, at the very least, we're not hemorrhaging like crazy.
And again, that money would then go back to them. So if, in fact, you would use a percentage, it would say that, and any unused amount will go back to the applicant. So you're
Right.
not making money on them. So,
Right.
So if we say that, I'm thinking as we're talking, that probably wouldn't be such a bad idea.
John, what's the average range of percentages that you've seen?
I've seen them as high as 3%, which I think it's a little high. I mean, if you have a $10,000 escrow, 3% would only be $300. I guess that's not that high.
Well, we'd have to make sure we'd be doing that level of work, so I think maybe closer to 1%.
I mean, you can always change that percentage in the future too, but.
Yeah.
A question for you, if we were to some sort of percentage base, would our finance officer and myself and whoever else touched the escrow need to record their time?
I would think you have to,
Same way
because
that
then
you
you
would.
have to calculate that to make deductions off the escrow, or to determine what the fee would be, yes.
So,
And again, that's more time consuming, I understand that, but unfortunately, that's what our good people in Harrisburg have decided that we have to do when we do these things.
So then my concern for that would be that if our finance department is concerned about assessing a yearly fee, this goes far above and beyond a simple yearly fee that would be assessed once a year, unless, of course, in order to assess that yearly fee, we would also need to follow these protocols.
Yeah, I was just wondering what's the difference between a percentage and a yearly fee? How do you justify the yearly fee if you're not tracking your time?
Well, here at $50, I mean, I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's
I don't know if you're kind of worried about tracking time at $50.
That's true.
More zeros behind the number, yeah, you probably would.
I despite misgivings from, maybe some people, I think it might make sense to go with either some sort of percentage or an annual fee. I mean, even if it's, I'm not sure on how the assessment, when the assessment would be made with the percentage version, but if it were yearly at $50 or something like that, because that would probably cover most cases, couldn't that simply be written out every January, the first day of work in January?
feasibly, yes, that's what we would do. Along with any other, $50 fee when we open the account, or we could start tracking my time, and any of our finance consultants' time when assisting with escrow.
That's really the way to do it, even though that's time consuming.
Right.
Now, you worried about hemorrhaging money. Now you're not hemorrhaging because you know exactly what's being used.
Well, when the percentages are assessed, is that done on a quarterly or yearly basis? Because we'd have to be able to start recouping money from, the beginning, I would say, because obviously you can't say, oh, here's a deposit on that. You kind of have to figure out, okay, do we do this every month, or is this?
Every quarter would probably make sense.
So 1% each quarter or something like that.
And again, whatever is not used, and I'll change the language here, et cetera. Whatever is not used then goes back to the applicant, so that the township isn't making money.
Right.
But you are at least covering your expenses,
And that's
what,
right.
that's what these things are supposed to do, cover your expenses. Where
Right, so
the taxpayer
figure out.
paying the cost of, somebody else.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree.
Well, let me work on that language with your permission, okay?
Sure.
And then I'll look at these two, and if John has a moment, he may be able to take a look at these two and see which one we prefer.
Yeah, I think that would make sense.
This way then we can say, this is the one we prefer, and you guys don't have to struggle over it.
Is June 22nd okay for you guys timeline-wise?
I'm fine, because I looked at these earlier in the month.
It's only gonna take me 15 minutes or so just to go through it.
Okay. Do I hear a motion that we
It
table?
looks bad now with just 15 minutes.
You gotta author them, I only have to critique them, that's a whole lot easier.
Do I hear a motion that we table this item for consideration till, June 22nd?
I'll make the
Motion.
motion.
Okay, both my colleagues made the motion, so I will second.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'll stick with the original, so both my colleagues, they simultaneously moved for that, I will second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, next is, park security. Brian can speak more to the cost and the logistics. I will say that I did stop by Minnesink and River's Edge, and there was hardly any there was no activity that was illicit. It was just people riding, bikes with kids in the parking lots and stuff like that. And I know that Ed stopped by midday also, I think, and he said there was no activity. So, Brian, if you want to add anything or talk about it.
Sure. Jacob, what happened? And by the way, thank you for the pick. And I had other people tell me that the bank was no longer there because of the rains we had. But, Christ, I didn't realize how much flow there was in the creek. But having said that, in the weather, we were fortunate over that holiday. Temperatures were up close to 90 or 91 degrees. But then it started on Friday and just went downhill Friday and Sunday, and got a little bit better on Monday, the holiday. But as far as I was concerned, we put them on alert, as I said in an email, and we engaged their services for that over the holiday, two guards at Minnesink only, at $16 apiece, $32 an hour, and then called and pulled them off. And fortunately, we saved some good money. I did talk to these guys again and told them that we would be discussing this, and we've got to come up and talk to them and determine what we want and what we expect of them, and I guess how we want to do it, Jacob. It's it's the same rate that they've charged us for the last 2 years would be charged this year, and we'll take a look and see. The parks to be concerned about really are Minnesink definitely, River's Edge possibly, and Marshall's Falls. I'm just saying this with my fingers crossed because Mount Nebo and Waterfront, we've been very fortunate in that they're not been inundated or hardly used at all. So having said that, I again, we would take a look to see what it would cost, and is it doable? Is it feasible? And then what do we do with Marshall's Falls, for example? Because that it's remote enough that God knows what might happen. Robert, how do you feel about the whole?
I think we just leave Marshall's Falls until we have a problem.
Okay.
I don't know. By the way, just parenthetically, I had a long meeting with John Donahue last week, former superintendent of the Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area, and I asked him if he could come to us with some proposal on a lot of issues we're facing. One is this. I mean, I think I'd love to know what the park does for park security, and if they've faced any of this kind of stuff. Maybe we get some intelligence on it. And the other things are, I just think we need more close liaisons with the park. Things, for instance, about the River Road paving we just talked about, whether we could get them to contribute something, or there's a federal grant that's the equivalent of what we were trying to do with Green Light Go for any roads that lead to national parks and so forth. There may be something there, but anyway, it was broad ranging. But I think we go ahead with what we've got as far as security. But it would be interesting to know what they face, because they've been doing this for years and they've got sometimes similar problems.
Oh, they do. And again, I talked to Kathleen Zant. She's their communications director, and asking for the same exact information. And they're going to greatly curtail parking that's in certain areas. They're going to close some roads just because of the inundations they've experienced over the last several years on both sides of the river. They've got full-time security, and they're good. But they certainly limit themselves, or maybe have to limit themselves to Park Service land. So we do know that they've had horrendous situations with garbage removal across the river at Kinnatini, up at our own Smithfield Beach, Hialeah. So we're all experiencing it. We're all just wondering that are we going to face this again? Our options are kind of we're funded. We're publicly funded, but we do have to allow public access with certain restrictions, if you will. No alcohol, no smoking, that kind of stuff, and of course no trespassing or swimming in the creek. So, but that has to be observed. It has to be. Quite frankly, it has to have somebody there to do it, and that would be security.
Well, and from what he was saying, it's a problem that I think is going to get worse.
Worse, I agree. Yep.
And it's not
I didn't know what to expect over the holiday weekend. Initially, when they projected the temperatures in the 90s, and I guess Mother Nature gave us a hand on that, but we're not going to be that lucky in the future.
Well, there's another factor that might come up, and that is the national parks are vastly underfunded. And one of the things that's been discussed and rejected so far, but it could be around the corner, we don't know, is a fee to get into Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area, because it's one of the few national parks or recreation areas that doesn't have a user fee. And yet, most of the traffic on 209 going through it is park traffic, or at least you could figure it out saying if they don't come out the other end, it's park traffic. And so there have been thoughts of tolling that as a park entrance fee. So if that ever happened, you can bet that we're going to get whatever we have now. It's going to be tenfold as far as people trying to find places to go that aren't in the park.
I think, Robert, you're right on the money on this. The reason we've got this problem initially was a couple of other parks. Stroud Township took some. Of course, they have access to a police force, but they took some action to control their parks. And part of that was charging an entrance fee. And they went through a number of different versions of that and ended up paying a security firm to do exactly what we're doing. So, but they did it first.
Right.
Yes, sir.
I was going to say, I think at this point, since we kind of have to watch to see what the next, we have a little bit left in, June to see, what happens. I think, periodically we can check, but I think we know that we should probably get on the schedule for July 4th weekend. Or I don't know I actually don't know if that's even a weekend this year, but it is? Okay. Well, I think
it is?
Yeah, it's a Sunday. I think for that weekend, perhaps for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we should consider having the same two-man crew at Minisink. I think that we, in the interim, should figure out how to really seal off Marshall's Falls from the public. Because I don't know when, until we have something from PennDOT or HOP from PennDOT, we can't really go out to bid, and therefore aren't going to be able to have a contractor hold up the place. We're going to have to do it ourselves. So I think that's something we have to think about.
I agree, Jacob, and I think what's going to happen is, in the past, what we did is we kind of tried to find out when the majority of the schools in the metropolitan New York area, New Jersey areas, when they finished, and it was, I think, typically mid-June, I guess. But with COVID-19, who the hell knows? And what we did was, in the last couple of years anyway, we said, okay, school's out, we begin our security. And I do know this. This is if it's a nice warm weekend and the beach is available, we will have people there. If the worst case scenario, if you'd like, if you want, I'll get back to these people, our security firm, and ask that they begin and think scheduling, and we'll begin with Minisink Park. And I think Jacob, you or Robert said, let's secure Marshall's Creek as best we can. Maybe talk to Russ Scott again and ask him if he would allow us to cordon off that parking lot, because it's almost begging people to come in, park, and go up. But the consequences of that are that they may be parked up and down Marshall's Creek Road illegally and very dangerously.
The one thing I think we should say this year is the Scots are on their own. We're not going to patrol their parking lot. Let them put up their own Jersey barriers and keep people out of there.
I agree, but he probably won't. And ergo, in they go, and up they go to the falls and every place else. I remember last year, Joe Louisi, the fire chief for Marshall's Creek, he was in there taking a look around. He talked to you, Robert. I think he talked to Jake and myself, maybe utilizing that house for training. And I guess he was in there last year, and he said it was disgusting. He took film of it, and he was the one that sent it to the paper, I guess, and got a lot of publicity.
That's for sure.
And we don't have our tenant there to chase them, or call us and let us know. But how about we do this, Jacob? So I would prefer that we started a week earlier, maybe last weekend in June. And then what that does is, because I do know when they have the buses up here, these buses don't come up if they know that they're not going to have access or be able to drop off those people who pay to come to the creek. So I think there truly is a team that goes out. It's an exploratory team, and they call back and say it's a go. Come on up. There's no guards. Beach is fine, and that it starts there.
Well,
but if we did do that.
Yeah, I would agree with you because, I just looked up, last day of school in New York City actually happens to be June 25th. So the weekend of the 26th, it might not be bad to see how that goes, like you said.
And you know what, Robert and Jacob, what happens is that doesn't go unannounced. Those guards are there, they have a presence, and when they drive by and go by, that's reported back. And I know that. I know that they have a communication system that's pretty damn good. And they're going to say, oh, well, they have guards there, so I don't think we want to be going there. And the darn reason they want to go there is because they can drink. And we can't stop that ourselves. Signs, as somebody said, it's a waste of words in most instances, So if we did that in the last week of that weekend in June, I think we sending out our own first message to our beachgoers, and then play it from there. Marshall's Falls, Robert, I don't know what the hell we can do. We talked to Eddie. You could put the barricades up again, especially the driveways in. But I just don't know. We certainly alert our elected officials, Rosemary Brown, and others, that, hey, put the state police on alert because it's so dangerous. And they just drive and walk, and they've got kids with them, too. And they're drinking up there and looting and smoking and everything else. So,
what's our fine for parking along that road?
It's a state road, Jacob, and I think it's up to the state police to enforce it and issue signs.
Yeah.
On River Road, we're allowed to tow. And I always said, when the beaches were packed and we're 90, 100 people and everybody having a good time down in the creek, drinking and everything else, one tow truck with one car on it goes slowly over that bridge. And I bet you wouldn't have too many people there an hour later,
Understood. Well, I think that we should entertain a motion to Brian to liaise and get at least June, the weekend of the 26th and Independence Day weekend retained for the security with the two-man crew, and then we can talk in the interim about Marshall's Falls.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion to that effect?
Let me say, Jacob, then, if with your permissions, I would continue to work as liaison, and I think and Eddie always is informed of it, not so much that as his job or responsibility, but if for some reason I'm not available, I need somebody, either Robert or yourself, that has the authority to say, hey, do it, or hey, don't do it. I think Robert and I had discussions, I think even as early as last year, where we had intruders, and we just wanted to make a decision on what we wanted to do with them.
Well, I won't be here, so I guess it's Jacob.
Okay.
Hey, Robert, you owe me. Robert, you owe me. I that's why I phrase it that way.
That sounds good. I'm fine with that. So I'll make a motion that allows Brian to continue as liaison and ensure that we're covered for the weekend of the 26th and Independence Day weekend. Do I hear a second? Second by Mr. Levenheim. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Speaking of Chief Luisi, the next item is the nuisance alarm ordinance idea. That was brought on by Marshalls Creek Fire Company. As there's a number of calls. I don't remember the exact statistic off the top of my head, but I think there was one place that's had already 73 calls, and of them 0 were emergencies. So we've got some repeat offenders of false alarms. I think this was put on here so we can talk about whether or not we're interested in learning about what a nuisance alarm ordinance entails and all that.
Well, again, No, just a brief comment. I'm kind of familiar with it. Worked with it in the past, and I know at least one, I'm not going to mention the name, repeat offender, if you will. And it got to the point it's expensive. These guys have to fall out, call out, and report, and then all of a sudden it's a false alarm, and that costs them. And these are volunteers that are saying, geez, we got enough on our hands with the real stuff. So I would definitely consider it. We looked at one of them. I think our neighbor, I'm not sure, but Middle Smithfield Township may have something in that regard. Maybe we should just ask them to, if they do, send it down and we can take a look at it.
Yeah. Okay. So there's definitely interest. Robert, any thoughts?
Not in that particular, but when you were talking about nuisance, I think we've got several nuisance questions. One is the fire alarms. One is construction in residential zones. One is loud music from resorts. I mean, I think we got several things you think are nuisances, especially with noise, that we should be taking up. So this is just one of them, but I think this is a good one. I would like to see us act on all these kinds of things with an overall nuisance ordinance or whatever, or add to our nuisance.
Understood. Well, yeah, those will definitely have to be separate, but at least for this, we all agree that we should consider this, so.
What I'll do also, Mr. Chair, is I think I did one for Upper Mount Bethel Township.
Oh, great.
So,
I think I have it, Ron.
Do you have
Ron, I think I poached yours. But if you've got it, please send it to us again.
Yeah, I said, I'm remembering, I thought I did one, but I'll send another copy. But yeah, this way then you at least have something to start with. But if Middle Smithfield has one, doesn't hurt to see what they have if they're willing to share it.
Sure.
I'll do this research and see what I can dig up for other townships as well.
Awesome. Well, that sounds good then. Next, we have, Julia, I know you mentioned earlier that you want to talk about American Rescue Plans. Do you want to talk about that now?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
So we are very much under the gun to apply for this money. We need to get our application in by the end of June or we forfeit the funds. Because of that, DCED and other organizations are moving very quickly, and there's a lot of paperwork that we need to fill out that requires signatures, accounts being created, et cetera, et cetera. I don't believe anyone on the board is against us going after this free money, basically. But if you all don't mind, I would appreciate a motion stating that that the board is planning to pursue the ARP funds and to authorize the chair to sign any documents associated with applying for those funds.
Amen.
For that motion, specifically, we've had some issues with our SAM number, our SAM registration right now, where we are registered in the system, but we don't have an administrator, and we have the wrong executive name on our DUNS number, so there are a few hoops that I need to jump through in order to get the numbers that we need to apply for, and I just want the board to do so.
Understood. It's, I don't remember if it's between now $780,000 and $790,000, but it's even more than the $757,000 that was initially allocated. So to say no to that would be crazy. So.
Yeah. If all goes when, knock on wood, all goes well, our first installment will be just over $395,000.
And Julia, may I ask this? Is that will come? We don't have to put a formal application in to receive that particular payment. It's one of two. Is that correct?
That is not. Because we are a non-entitlement community, what we need to do is
apply. We're not.
Through their single application. And in order to apply for that single application, we need the DUNS number, our SAM registration, our operating budget, and there's a long list of things that we need to do.
Okay.
Originally, the guidance was that we would not need to apply and that the money would come straight to the townships without any application process.
Right.
Unfortunately, that has changed.
I mean, this is primarily for tracking purposes at the federal level, correct?
Well, the federal, at the federal level, the money has been dispersed to the state,
Right.
and this is the state tracking its disbursement to the township.
No.
So now you got the feds and the state in it, God help us. But it's good money. But we'll pay dearly. I know it at the end. Do you need a motion, Jacob, to proceed?
If you would not mind motioning to pursue the ARP funds and to authorize the chair to sign any documents associating with applying for those funds, I would be very grateful.
Well, then I'll be more than happy to make that motion, as stated by Julia.
Okay, motion by Mr. Barrett, do I hear a second? Second by Mr. Levenheim, all in favor?
Aye.
Robert, we need your vote.
I raised my finger.
Aye. Okay. Right.
I saw that.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Next we have, before I continue on to our, final item, does anybody have anything else that we should, talk about before we pay our bills?
Can I just, a question, Jacob? I know that, was it a couple of weeks ago you got a report about somebody in a black uniform armed that are telling people to stay away? I arrested 7 people or some damn thing. Now, I checked with our security company just to make sure, and they didn't have anybody assigned there, and I don't know. Did you ever get any further information on that?
Julia made sure it was not the sheriff's department. We now believe it may have been a constable, not ours. From what I understand, it may indeed be little Smithfield's constable. Now, I do not believe, maybe I'm wrong, but I do not believe that constables have any authority like that to unilaterally do so without being asked. Their only legal duty is, by law, to be officers of the peace at polling places. They are not police. So I'm going to see what more we can find out about that. Rosemary Brown's office also mentioned that they did not ask anybody. So this is what we know thus far. It is strange and definitely not what we asked for. I know that even our own private security would act in that manner. So it's going to be interesting to get to the bottom of that. Fortunately, though, our security is not going to allow something like that to happen. We don't need vigilante justice in our township. That's
well, can I say I compliment you, Jacob, because that's probably exactly what happened. And about 2 years ago, we had 2 gentlemen down there, township residents, not necessarily dressed in all black, but carrying ARs, and they decided that they would stand at the entrance to Menacing Park and vet people coming in.
Oh, God.
And Jesus, well, that lasted about an hour because that includes soccer moms and everybody else. So, and that was quickly taken care of. But that was surprising. And then, Robert, can I ask Robert before you head out? Did you get in touch with the attorney from DLP? I know.
Ron and I have a conference call with him. I'm only waiting for the final appraisal to be delivered from Howard Mantle.
Great. Okay.
So as soon as we get that, that's something to discuss.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that's been holding it up.
Awesome. Well, with that said, Ron, John, do you guys have anything before we pay bills?
I will think of 10 things as I drive down the road. But right now, I do not. Thank you.
I just want to move back to the noise question. We discussed this once before, and John was going to look up maybe some noise ordinances from other townships.
Yeah, I was, and I did not.
But I will. I just think, I'm reacting to citizen complaints. And one of the big ones is construction that starts too early in the morning or is on weekends. And we ought to have something about that. And the other
I think we do. I think we do. We got to check. I'm sorry, Robert. I don't want to interrupt you, but I think we do have something that states that construction will not begin any sooner. That 7 a.m. Will last till during the week until maybe twilight. On weekends, Saturdays start at 7, and then Sundays. I think that's in there.
Yeah, I want to say that I've read that somewhere too, so we just need
It might be in a developer's agreement, but that would only apply to that specific developer.
So that might have been where I read it.
So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, if you're worried about the local builder who's just doing work on somebody's house, you may or may not have an ordinance to cover that. Now, with
we did.
a big project like Smithfield Gateway, the developer, and I don't remember reading it, but I do know that some developers' agreements have specific language in as to when they can work.
We have one to the fishing pier, yes.
Okay.
And to add to that, on the May 11th meeting, this was discussed about adding that, so it's made into an addendum for the pending noise ordinance. Right now, you've got the fireworks ordinance update, to comply with Act 43, a nuisance ordinance, and then the noise ordinance coming in before that. So we do have it on the docket, and we are planning to move forward. We can only work on one or two ordinance amendments at a time.
I would like to see us push that, and also something about loud party noise and hours in residential neighborhoods so that parties don't go on all night. And I'm only responding to complaints I've had on both issues, so that if there are complaints, we should push them forward.
I agree. Robert, several years ago, we did have a problem with noise. One of them, Sawmill Court, at the top of it, at one time it was jeepers, I don't know. I guess it was a after-hours dance joint, and loud music all night, and it turned out to be much worse than that. And then there were complaints very close to your home on what's the connector road, Shawnee Valley Road, that up towards the top, up towards Mount Nebo. There were several homes that got together, and they played loud music all through the day and the night. You and I talked about it, and you I believe, said, I'm going to go over and check it out. And I said, "Go, God, good luck, and God bless."
I think in the HOA area, they do have some noise requirements, but that's not the township. That's in the area.
Amen. It's not, right.
So this would cover, I think, any residential area. Just probably saying after like 11 o'clock at night on weekends, you can't have any loud noise outside, anything, something like that. I'm sure it exists in other townships. We could just kind of find some good language for it.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me. Yep.
All that said, our bills and payments, for this meeting include, $62,944.76 for between the general fund and the highway fund. That includes our typical contracts, our insurance, Dempsey uniform, legal bills, as well as the State Workers Insurance Fund, and the other generic payments like waste management, for trash and whatnot. And then the other payments are the standard payments from the 2021 budget for Shawnee Fire, Marshalls Creek Fire, and Delaware Water Gap Fire Company. So with that said, does anybody have any questions? Oh, and it does include one payroll also. I forgot to mention that. Okay. Hearing none, do I hear a motion that we approve our bills and our contributions?
I'll make the motion.
Okay. Second? All in favor?
I'll second. Aye.
Aye. Okay, any public comments? Anybody join us on Zoom? We no longer have any guests in the room. Okay, hearing none, do I hear a motion that we adjourn?
Yes.
Motion.
I'll make
Motion simultaneously once again by my colleague. A second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 5:18 p.m. If anybody else has anything, I'm just gonna turn off the YouTube portion.
All right.
All right, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, Brian.
Brian, good night.
Yeah, looking forward